everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Female Film Critics panel. And this is the show where I like to have my female film critics friends and content creators on, talk about their experience. And it's just a lot of fun. And this is the 47th episode of Female Film Critics panel. Very fun. And today I have with me one of my fellow Utah Film Critics Association members that I see at screenings all the time. I have Val Cameron on. And thank you so much, Val, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this is your
is
first
fun.
time. This is your first time on Rachel's Review. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how did you get involved in film, the many different ways that you are involved?
So I have been a film critic for a long time, like a little over 10 years. So that kind of
Oh
ages
my
me a
gosh.
little bit. Um, I've loved film since I was a kid. I remember, watching movies with my grandpa, and then my parents just letting me kind of watch whatever I wanted. Now, of course, it was like the TV version of things, so they were
Hmm.
edited out, but I
Right.
was just always in love with film. Something I watched over and over, when I was actually in preschool, if you can recognize that. I remember that far back. Um, is the making of Thriller, of Michael Jackson's Thriller. Like
That's
on
interesting.
MTV,
Yeah.
they had this like making of the video, and my parents recorded it for me. And so they showed like the director and the choreographer and all the makeup. And I would just watch that over and over and over. I was just so like enthralled in it. And my parents were like, all right, well, let her watch it. And then when I was in high school, I helped start our television program at my high school, and I learned how to edit in like 30 minutes. I have tried to be a musician like my dad. I've tried to be like a visual artist, painter, drawing, all of that. And it just didn't click, right? So then when I learned how to edit in like 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, like this is something I want to do. 13 days after graduating high school, I went to USC film school, and I'm just right there at USC 17 in braces, just
Wow.
having a great time. So happy that my mom and dad dared to drop me off there and like drive out of the state. Yeah, and I just got to work with people from all over the world that summer. And you just work on everyone's projects. You get to meet so many different people, and I was just hooked. And I came back to Utah, went to film school at Salt Lake Community College, and met some amazing professors there, and
Mhm.
then just got involved in the film community here in Utah. And it's big, it's
Yeah.
vast.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
so much going on. And then when I started working for Radio Disney, I started going to all of like the film screenings, like the in advance film screenings, and I started writing reviews and talking about movies.
Mhm.
And that's when I got into it. But it took me a while to become a member of the Utah Film Critic Association. It's been 2 years, I think,
Yeah.
since I've been in. And I've seen, a lot of our colleagues throughout the years just doing so many great things. So it's really great being a part of that. And I love how we all have our own style.
Mhm. Yeah. Did it take you more than one time applying for you to
I
film critics?
I didn't apply because before you had to be nominated, when I
Oh.
originally found out about it. And our good friend Tony Toscano wanted to nominate me back in 2018, and I was still working in radio doing reviews both on my radio station every week and on Good Things Utah. But I was going through a divorce, frankly, and wasn't like really in a good place to like add more onto my plate at the time.
Hmm.
But I told him that it is something I definitely want to do. And so I worked
Yeah.
towards that. At the time, I wasn't really writing a lot of reviews. Like I'd write small ones to go on the radio station website, but mostly vocal. It was on the
Hmm.
radio,
Hmm.
live on TV.
Yeah.
And so I really pushed myself from 2018 to when I got nominated in 2021 to really push myself to write more. And
Yeah.
so that's what I did.
I only asked because it took me twice of
Oh,
applying.
okay.
I the first time 2019 is I thought, oh, they'll definitely let me in. Like I'm on the press list, and I'm on Rotten Tomatoes, but they rejected me that year because I made the mistake of thinking that they would want to know about the stuff that I was doing that was the most popular. So I was telling them about Hallmark and I was telling them about Disney and I was telling them about that stuff. And so they thought at least this is the impression that I got, that they thought I was just like a family film person,
Hmm.
and that they were like, you need to diversify your portfolio, even though in reality, I had actually, I'd covered Sundance for 5 years. I had, I did
Yeah.
see a wide variety of films. And so then the next year I made sure to really focus on like, here's I did try that year to see more like horror, see more, and I made sure in my application to like really showcase like, look at all these Sundance films I reviewed and look at all these anime films, they reviewed this, so it's not just the Disney Hallmark girl. And so
Yeah.
I think that's what made the difference, but anyway.
I don't know. I think in like I love our community of film critics, but I think things have definitely changed over the last 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
because there haven't been a whole lot of female film
Yeah.
critics, and there's still only like what, 4 or 5 of us.
Well,
Um,
you're the last of the Utah Film Critics Association female to be on the show because we had Jennifer, we've had you, now we'll have you and Caitlin, and then of course me, and that's it.
there's only four, so there's 4 of us,
Yeah, there's four.
and when I was on radio, I was the only female film reviewer in
Yeah,
radio in the state of Utah, which was
yeah,
crazy. And right now, on TV here in Utah, I'm the only female.
yeah.
And
And
the
it's a
fact that
small, I mean, we should clarify, it's a small group. There's only, I think, 25 members total. So it's
well,
a
but I
small
think
group, but
even
yeah.
even outside the group of film critics, there are, the Film Critic Association, there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of female film critics in the state of Utah that aren't with us, that I
Mm-hmm.
see at screenings all the time that still,
Yeah.
and I don't want to say that this isn't in a negative connotation. I also think that things are taking a turn, that you don't need to be on TV and radio anymore because you can have your own podcast, you can have your own blog.
Yeah.
Because when I started, that wasn't a thing. You had to be either on radio, TV, or writing for, a big publication. And so I'm so happy that things have changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like, I look up to you. You do so much more than I do. So I can't believe that you had to apply 3 times because, the diverseness of what you do comparatively to, the norm of what's in our group. I don't watch horror films unless I have to. It's not my jam.
Yeah.
And people know that about me. And I think that, people knowing that they can come to you for certain things, you have a very specific niche, although you go outside of that when it's that time of year when, and so I think that's really great
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing about being a film critic, is that you need an audience to know that they agree with someone. So if you say something's going to be a B, they know, or 4 stars, or however you do it, they know that if they follow Rachel,
Mm-hmm.
then they
They
know
know
they're
what that
safe to go
means.
see that. They know what
Yeah.
that means. And same with people that come to mind. I'm a little nicer in my film criticism than some of our other colleagues, but people know, okay, this person's going to be extra hard. And so if they like it, I'm going to like it if Val likes
Yeah.
it. So that's why I love how diverse it is. And having a niche is not a bad thing. I think it's great. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I look at everything you do and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up. I have some goals for next
Woo!
year.
Yeah, it's
I mean, you're doing everything. So, yeah, I'm like, oh my
so
gosh, like, so yeah.
so do you think that your experience in studying film in college and things, do you think that helps you in your analysis?
I think at first, like the first 5 years I was out of film school, I was a snob. Like nobody wanted to ask me my opinion about a movie. Like we'd go see it And then they'd ask me and I'd be like, bleh, like
Right.
all of this stuff. And so then like 3 years out, I was like, do you really want to know? Like, do you want to know
Yeah.
my opinion for real, or do you just want to know if it's good? Right.
Hmm.
And now I feel like I'm so much better, just the experience over the years, because I can differentiate the technical aspect of what makes a film good and the reason why I like it as a film lover, because I got in to film because I love movies and I walk into every film not having anything against it unless it's like horror. And I'm like, okay, like be all right,
Hmm.
and slasher horror, not like thriller horror. So for me, I think, I don't think you need to have gone to film school to be a film critic. I think that if you watch film, you pay attention to what's going on, and you have an opinion, a consistent opinion, you can be
Yeah.
good at it. I think sometimes when you know too much about film, it can alienate an audience from you, because 10% of people that love film and are watching it don't know about the technical. They just know if they like it or not, if they want to spend money on it and time on it or not.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think being able to compartmentalize those things is good.
I always tell people to be wary of voices that are just constantly nothing but praise of films, and then ones that are constant contrarians, because the truth is always going to be somewhere in the middle. Like nobody's going to like everything, and if they do, then
Yeah.
I don't know if I take them that seriously. And yeah, I feel like occasionally every critic has to stick their neck out and be like, "Oh, I didn't agree
Yeah.
with all, most of the people on this one." If you see enough movies, but then also the person who's just nitpicking and never has anything that they love, just like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I've gotten a lot of comments, on Good Things Utah, because I usually only have enough time to cover 3 movies,
Right.
sometimes 4 if I could
Yeah.
really be like quick about it.
Fast.
And so usually I only pick the movies that are the winners for the week. I don't
Mm,
often pick movies that are below a B minus, like
that makes sense.
unless it's like something big that I know is either going to be nominated or is the
Hmm.
big movie of the weekend. Like this weekend, I've got a movie coming up that's a C plus, and I've gotten on and said movies are an F, but it's not very often, because I know that you have to know the audience that you're talking to as well. I
Yeah.
know that mainly females who are tuning into Good Things Utah, they have very little time because they usually have kids and they have busy lives and they're on budgets.
Right.
So I'm going to tell them what's good, and if they should go to the theater and see it, or if they should wait until they're at home. That's my biggest thing
Hmm.
for that
Hmm.
audience. Where on other podcasts and when I write reviews, I can really get in deep to why and why not
Hmm.
I don't like it. And then if you want a deeper dive, you're going to go to my website or some other
Right.
podcasts that I have. But one thing that people know about me is that regardless of the movie, I can usually find at least one thing good about it.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
I do respect that other people like genres that I don't like. And so I usually say, this movie isn't for me. However, this and this really stood out. Um, so if this is your thing, I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
Not my thing, but if it's
Hmm.
because there are some formulas about certain like genres, like horror films, like slasher or horror films that are on the edge of slasher. they have specific formulas and specific things that people like about those films.
Well, and I think that does make a lot of sense. I was just saying the other day on Twitter that if you can't, if you're going into a film and there is absolutely no way that you would ever give this potential film 5 stars, like that's never going to happen, that's not fair. Like any film should have the possibility to wow you.
Yeah.
And it might be, an uphill journey, but that should always be an option. And and I see that all the time, it drives me crazy particularly with rom-coms, that you'll have people that, let's say on Letterboxd or whatever, they'll be like, this was so fun, I love this movie, blah, 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 2 stars. We're like, what? That makes no sense. And it's just because it's just the genre bias. And it's so unfair. Like if I was a filmmaker, it would be so frustrating that if you knew that no matter what, and you see with animation all the time as well, that for some people, it wouldn't matter if it was the best animated film they had ever seen, it would still not get it couldn't get a perfect score because they just see animation as less. And they might not even like vocalize that, but it's true. And it makes me crazy. But especially, like I said, with rom-coms, with horror, that's why I'm very careful about I'm trying to be very careful about the horror movies I do watch, that I think it's one that I think I can give a fair critique to.
Exactly.
Because it's just not fair to anybody involved if I
that's what I think too. Like when Insidious came out, I went on TV and I'm like, I just want to let everybody know Insidious is opening this weekend. There is no way I'm going to see that movie. But if that's your thing, it's out. Go see it. But like I know that if I go and watch Insidious, I can't fairly do anything because I can't watch Insidious.
It's like somebody was reviewing the Talk to Me, that A24, horror movie, which I actually did watch, and they were like, it was too scary. I'm like, so it did its job. What?
Yeah. I actually enjoyed Talk to Me because that's more of a thriller, right?
Yeah.
And it was so unique. And so it's
too scary.
There's so many, each genre is a gray area. Like you said, rom-coms. There's so many different types of rom-coms. There's so many different types of horror. I'm not into slasher, but I love like over on this side of horror. And so, for me, it was when I worked for Radio Disney and we did all of these screenings, I would see the film critics come in and just be like, oh, another Disney movie. They automatically hate it and they want it to prove something to them. And, I get it, but when I first started being a film critic on the association, I just thought I needed to do so much homework on each film and know everything about it going in. And I realized that was a detriment because, and so
prejudicing yourself.
This year, unless it's a Marvel movie, I try not to know anything about it going in, because I think what I miss about movies over the last couple of years is being surprised by something and really having that full experience. I remember not reading anything for the movie Lamb last year, and I'm watching it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea. And so I really liked that movie because I had no idea. I was surprised. And so this year I've really just, like, when I have to post trailers and stuff, I literally just post the link, say the movie is coming out then, and I don't watch it. Because I do just want that element of excitement, escapism, surprise. And then if it's still, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, it's not because I read someone else's review. It's not because I read everything to expect about it. It's my own genuine opinion.
Yeah. It is such an exciting thing when something does genuinely surprise you. Like a couple last year, actually, we're kind of in the horror realm. For me, The Menu was a huge surprise.
Yes!
I loved that movie. And actually, it was so good. And then Barbarian, I thought was just so surprising. I had no idea what was going to happen from scene to scene to scene. And I thought the casting was so brilliant in that movie. I mean, using Justin Long, who's so likable, and so you just are rooting for the guy. So for him to be this Me Too guy, it was brilliant. I thought casting, and so that was fun for me. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was a huge surprise last year. I was expecting it to be just another DreamWorks sequel that was not going to be great, and I just was blown away by the quality of the animation, the quality of the characters, the story, just everything.
Yeah.
I thought it was it was so exciting to me because I just felt like they could have easily just phoned that thing in and produced
Yeah.
something that would have been fine, and everybody would have been like, "That was fine."
Yeah.
So the fact that they really pushed themselves to do something special with like one of the best villains that we've seen in an animated film in a long time, that wolf was so scary, and it was very exciting to me. And
Yeah.
so this year, I'm trying to think what has surprised me. I don't know. I haven't quite
I
had
mean,
that like
I think
visceral.
just
There's lots of movies I've enjoyed, but like
yeah,
one that's really surprised me. I'm trying to think. I
I
don't know
think
what.
A24 in general, just content wise, has surprised me this year because I think when you think about A24, if you're a fan, you automatically think this is going to be a weird off the wall movie that I'm either going to love or it's going to be too much. And this year, they have shown like just a gambit of, different things. Like You Hurt My Feelings is one of my favorite movies of the year. And if you were to
Oh,
tell me that was an A24 movie, because then they
yeah.
like 2 weeks later they had that Joaquin Phoenix just like disaster
Right.
of like 7 movies in one movie that is just so many different thoughts going on. But I love it because
Uh-huh.
it's they just they're pushing the envelope um of telling these good stories. And
Yeah.
even though I don't love all their films, I respect the fact that they keep surprising us.
Yeah, I'd agree. I guess it sounds weird to say this is a surprise, but for me it was. I went into Killers of the Flower Moon somewhat cautiously because I have not. I'm a bit of an outlier when it comes to recent Scorsese. I did not like Silence at all. I didn't like The Irishman, so I don't know. And I just thought, oh, this thing's gonna be like well made, but a slog. But I actually found it really compelling, and I was surprised, genuinely surprised how much it worked for me.
That's my unpopular opinion for
Oh,
today.
okay, good, good.
I This is the thing about that movie for me is that I think it missed the mark story-wise a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Um and I know it's going to be one of the it's a Scorsese movie. It's going to be
Yeah.
one that's on, the nomination lists. You've got all of your favorite actors in there, but for me, it was supposed to be a movie that was about representation, and I think
Uh-huh.
they fell short. And I
Mm.
do think their story was a little bloated and missed the mark on who they should have been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I also think because I'm a huge fan of Goodfellas, that
Mm-hmm.
there was some regurgitated scenes in there from
Mm.
Goodfellas
Mm.
because I've seen that movie so much. I'm like, that scene has happened before between, this character. That
Yeah.
scene has happened
I've only
before. And
seen
so,
Goodfellas one time, so
well, I would, if
that's fair.
anybody has not seen, this movie, go back and watch Goodfellas before you watch it and then go see this one
Yeah.
again. But I feel the same way about Napoleon. Um,
Oh
there
yeah.
were a
That was
lot of things I
no good.
loved about the film, but if you have 2.5 hours for a movie and it feels like 2.5 hours and you still haven't told your story yet and you need to be 4 hour cut later, I don't know, man,
Yeah, I have a lot of unpopular opinions. I always do during award season. I don't know. That's the hardest part is like these sometimes going to these awards contender screenings can be a slog. It can be frustrating. I mean, I'm just glad that I cover Hallmark because it gives me like the counterbalance.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
literally have to like I'll watch like today I'm going to be watching 2 more movies. I've been trying to hit 3 a day because I'm so behind.
yeah,
And
it's
I will
hard.
go and then just watch trash TV
Yeah.
for like an hour because I love reality TV so much. Just like not, I mean, I have a niche for a specific reality type, but
Hmm.
or I'll go and turn on, Endgame and just be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all have have that genre of what, where you have to kind of scrub your mind. If I have to go see a horror film, I usually come home and watch Moana and just kind of, you
Yeah.
know, uh
I
palate
I mean,
cleanse.
I didn't like Priscilla. I felt like I hardly learned anything about her. Like why was she interested in him except for the fact he's famous? Like I felt like I walked away from that knowing nothing new about Priscilla. And it was just like watching her hang around Graceland, and I just felt like it was, what was it saying about Elvis? And obviously, like they were trying to make points about a predator, but like I didn't think very interesting points. Like I don't know, I just felt like, okay, like we already knew that she was
Yeah.
14. What? Okay, and
I
I don't know,
mean,
I was just totally underwhelmed by it. And I thought that Sophia brought nothing interesting to the table. And I just find her to be an extremely overrated director. She always gets like huge praise, and then I watch her movies and I'm just like, what? That I didn't love it.
yeah, I was a little
Um,
disappointed as her as a director for that. One thing I do going into movies that are about public figures is that
mhm,
I've seen every Elvis movie, every Elvis documentary. My mom was a
yeah,
huge fan. But I have to understand that not everybody does that, right? And
yeah,
so with Priscilla, when I was telling some people about this film, they were like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that, or I don't remember that, or they only know the good things that they get through media and the good
mhm,
stories and all of that from the past. And I have to say back then, life was totally different.
yeah,
Predator and groomer wasn't a thing back then,
yeah.
right?
I just
And
wanted to get into her heart and find out what she was
yeah,
feeling, and hear her perspective.
yeah,
And when she leaves, I wanted it to, like, I wanted to know why, like what had changed, why had she, and I
yeah,
it was almost like I needed a narration or something. I just felt like it just felt vapid to me. I don't know.
yeah.
I was just not.
Again, they
And
missed the mark a little
yeah,
bit for the story they were telling. For me, I wanted to know like that had to have been really hard in school for her and her social life being nothing and her feeling so
yeah,
isolated and alone. And so for me, they showed a little bit of it, but not enough of
not
it.
much.
And then
Yeah,
her like deciding to leave is so hard in a marriage, especially when you truly do love someone.
yeah,
And for her to make that decision, like you said, like what were the steps leading up to that? What was that kind of conflict and argument with herself on whether she should stay or whether she should go?
hmm,
Yeah, I wish we would have seen a little more gritty realness to it, but I
hmm,
do think it was kind of like glossed over with this, you know, pretty
yeah.
camera,
Yeah. And they were kind of portraying Elvis as sort of an asexual, like he wasn't really interested in making love. He'd rather read his philosophy books and, other stuff like that. And I was like, they could have done more interesting things with that. Like, I didn't feel like
Yeah. Yeah,
but,
because he was very much into himself and what he
yeah.
wanted at the time, regardless of what anybody else wanted.
Yeah. I mean, this is just not my year for biopics because I didn't like Napoleon. I thought it was like I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, are you kidding me? This
Yeah.
this is like the last thing I expected of Napoleon was for it to basically be a rom-com. Like
For
what?
me,
Like
just because I
I
know
don't
that
know.
love story, I wanted him to decide, is
Well,
this going to
what
be all about war or is this going to be about their relationship? Because it got muddy. If he
well, I
would have
wanted
went
some
totally
like
towards,
I wanted some portrayal of him being a complex character. It was like they got through the movie and they're like, okay, we better put on the title card that he was responsible for 3 million deaths because we haven't
yeah,
like examined that at all within the
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
And so yeah, that was terrible. And I was not a big fan of Maestro either. Like I said, it's just not my year.
I haven't seen that yet. That's on
Oh,
my
okay. So
list.
I won't
So
bias
yeah,
you, but I just felt like it was very like actors acting,
yeah.
so
I think it's
and
been my
then
year for docs, for
yeah.
documentaries and foreign
Ooh,
films so far.
that's good. I haven't watched
Yeah,
that many docs. You have to give me some. But then Ferrari, I just watched yesterday. Ooh, that
yeah,
was a
same.
ooh, that was not good.
Yeah, for me, because I loved Ford versus Ferrari so much,
Yeah.
and I know they're two different styles of films. And after that movie came out, I really dug into the background of all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was like they skipped a rock across the top of this, and you had all of the actors that could have done, you
Yeah.
had all the bits and pieces, right? For me, I didn't hate it, but it wasn't anything great. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it felt like
It was just a movie.
I said in my review that that it could have been on Lifetime, like as far as the script. Like it was like
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast. My name is BJ.
And my name is Me Too, and we promise this promo is worth it, so please don't skip ahead.
We're two judgy friends who put our judgmental skills to work for you. We review the pilot episodes of new and popular shows and shows that our listeners request to answer your question, should I watch this?
Look, a lot of us are spending a lot more time at home, and yes, we should be reading and trying new projects and enriching ourselves, but does anything beat binging a great show?
Let us take the guesswork out of deciding what your next show will be. Tune in to The Pilot Podcast at thepilotpodcast.com.
of the Marvels. You're a big Marvel person.
I haven't
MCU.
seen it yet.
Oh,
I missed the
okay.
screening, and there are so many things that I need to see. And since I know that that's not going to be
Right.
even in any category, I'm just going to wait to see it. And honestly, I tried to watch both of the series with these new characters on Disney Plus, and I couldn't get into them.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, I guess, have a pre-bias of this movie, which I shouldn't,
Mhm.
in that if I'm going to spend the money at the theater to go see it, that's not one that I really care to go see right now. And that makes me
Yeah.
sad because I really want these strong female characters. But some things are just not meant for me. So I'm going to
Yeah.
wait until it comes out on Disney Plus and then watch it, like wholeheartedly watch
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
and you know,
Yeah.
write a review about it. But for me, watching Lessons in Chemistry this year, Brie Larson just owned that role on Apple TV Plus. If you haven't
I
seen
don't
that
know
series,
that.
I watched the series, like, and I thought I was just going to watch the first 3 episodes so that I could write a review and talk about it on TV.
Uh-huh.
And I binge watched it. And then when I was done, I downloaded the book and I binge listened to that book. And
I haven't even heard of it.
there are some things that are different about the book to the series, but I think both stories are important. So that was one of my favorite series of the year. Was
That's
that.
cool.
So yeah, I gave it an A. So
Mhm. Well,
but for me to watch Brie go from this to that, I'm like, I need a minute, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're both big Disney fans, and we both covered a lot of Disney. We're both big fans of the parks. And this has been like an absolutely horrific year for Disney. I mean, just one flop after another, with the exception of Guardians and like Elemental eked by barely making a profit. It's been very bad. And I'm just curious, like, if somebody were to come to you and be like, okay, what should we do? If Bob Iger calls Val up and says, what do I do? What would be some of your advice? What would you say?
I mean, for me, the one thing I loved about Elemental this year is that it was different. And for me, I would say there are so many stories that we haven't discovered yet, which is why so many of the past movies worked so well, is because they were these new movies that now you have formulated into old movies and you're just regurgitating the same thing. There's a way to give us that love of our past movie age into the new age. And so for me, you know, if you're going to make something new, make it new. You know, Ant-Man was not an Ant-Man movie. So don't call it Ant-Man. You know what I mean? It wasn't. And I think I would have liked it a little bit more if you wouldn't have called it Ant-Man. If you would have called it, you know, what is it? Ant-Man Multiverse of Madness. No, that was Doctor Strange. I don't know.
Yeah, Doctor
There's
Strange.
so many. Doctor Strange movie was not Doctor Strange either. Just
Yeah.
call it Multiverse of Madness, and I would have liked it a lot more. But for me, I just feel like they're trying to get back to 3 years ago when they were just blowing it away in the box office. You've got all of these people trying that have all these new stories to tell. And what was so great about 10 years ago with Marvel is that they were taking chances. Iron Man was a big chance.
Mhm.
That was a gamble, so take chances, gamble. That's what Walt Disney is all about, is saying, I believe in something and I'm going to do it, and doing something new and different.
Mhm.
So for me, I would just tell Bob, like, how this works. You have succeeded before, and you've succeeded because you've pushed the envelope, and you have put people with you that you've worked with that push the envelope. So take some chances. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't like Elemental, but I enjoyed it. Was it the
Yeah.
best animated movie of the year? No, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say you felt it was new, because for me, my kind of problem with it is I felt like I'd seen it all before. Like it felt so much like Inside Out and Zootopia and, these movies that I've seen so many similar to that. And even something like the Emoji Movie. I mean, just the list of the number of like going inside the world of, this is the world of elements, it's like, okay, we've done
Yeah.
this. And it wasn't like awful, but
Mhm.
but I did genuinely think that the Marvels was it really made me mad, because and it has pleasant things, it has charming things. You might watch it and be like, oh, that was fun, it had some funny parts.
Yeah.
Agreed. But what it felt like to me, and this is what kind of triggered me, I guess, is that it felt like they had taken 5 screenplays, mashed them all together, and then just put it out, and without any care of like semblance of plot or coherency or the fact that not everybody who's watched this will have done all of the required homework. And
Mhm.
and I guess what I would say, if I got the call from Bob, I would say, stop trying to make content. Stop trying to make.
Yeah.
It feels like they're making content for Disney Plus to put out content, whether it's Marvel, Star Wars, whatever it might be, instead of really trusting your storytellers and making authentic stories. I mean, that's why Guardians 3 is, in my opinion, by far the best theatrically
Mhm.
released film that they had this year, because it
Yeah.
was actually James Gunn's story. He actually had passion for it. He actually
Yeah.
and I mean, I think if Elemental works, the reason why it does work is because Peter Sohn, the director, had a passion for the story, because he is from immigrant family, and it was from his, it's something that mattered to him. And there's so many of these movies that are coming out that feel focus grouped. They feel there's just, even though I enjoyed The Little Mermaid, something like that, like it's still going to come off as, I mean, there's no world where I would watch the new Little Mermaid, even though I enjoyed it, over the original. That would never happen.
Same.
And it's the same thing with Wish, that I would rather watch any of the movies that it's paying homage to than Wish. I would any day. I would rather watch Bambi or Snow White or Cinderella or, Beauty and the Beast, whatever it might be. And so you leave feeling, I've seen it now twice, because I had to watch it for the podcast we did. And I left thinking I never have to watch that movie again. Like, unless it's required for something, there's no reason I would ever watch this movie again. And and even in the parks, it's so frustrating, because you feel like that, like, it just is starting to feel less special. Like, you're treated less special. You're just sort of like, I don't know, it's just not the magical experience that it once was. I mean, the food servings are so tiny. You're paying through the roof for everything. You're getting Genie Plus and, Lightning Lane and all of this stuff. And I went to Universal Studios Hollywood for the first time last year. And I, like I said, I'd never been. And it was, I'm not kidding, it was better than Disneyland. I thought
I haven't been to Universal in such a long time.
the quality of the experience, even their little Universal Walk or whatever they call it, was better than Downtown Disney. It was high quality, better. And they have a Universal Hollywood, they have a VIP experience, and I highly, highly recommend it for anybody. Especially if you like, I just can't be on my feet the same as some people. And so especially for someone like me, I thought it was well worth the money that they charge. So basically, it depends on when you're going, the price. But for me, it was $350, which is a lot of money. But in the world of theme parks,
Yeah,
it's fairly reasonable. And you get the first part of Universal Hollywood is you get their studio tour, which is like a real working studio that's working on a daily basis. And as part of the VIP, you get a more hands-on, intimate, smaller group tour. So that's the first part. And then the second part is you get front to the line for every single attraction, which unbelievable, especially for someone like me. That's hard for me to stand and for a long period. And so that was amazing. And you get a buffet, delicious lunch, all you can eat, with characters present, which I was just like, I mean, you'd pay probably $100 just for that at Disneyland. And so anyway, I was super impressed. I was impressed with the quality, with how clean it was, what we got for the money, just how much fun the rides were. And like, there's no comparison that Harry Potter World. I'm not a Harry Potter person that much. It's fine, but I'm not like a Potterhead, and it was. Harry Potter World is way better than Galaxy's Edge. Like, no comparison. Because when you go to Galaxy's Edge, everybody's just kind of standing around. There's nothing to do there except buy stuff.
I mean, my daughter didn't think she was going to love it because she's not really a Star Wars fan. And we walked in, and granted, like, she was, I want to say she was 19 at the time. So also, like, that age, if you're not into something, it's like whatever. And she's like, fine, let's go. And we walked from the minute we walked through the entrance to the time and I had to tell her, like, we got to go do other things. She loved it because there are some games that you can play to, like, find all these hidden things. And then we tried to, like, she wanted to get, like, some of the characters to, like, interact with her, which is really fun. We went and made some droids. Like, I think
like, the thing is, like, Harry Potter
for
World
everyone.
Harry Potter World, you can see, like, the characters from the movies and books that you know and love. Whereas they decided to make this Galaxy's Edge part of canon. So you go, and it's not like when you go to Star Wars World, you're gonna see Luke Skywalker and Leia and, you know, these kinds of things. You might see Kylo Ren if you're lucky. And when you go to Harry Potter World, they have, like, all of these stage shows and immersive experiences, and they don't have that. Like, every once stormtroopers will be there, you know. And I don't know. I just think that if I were Disney, I would be super concerned because
they are.
They should be. They should
they
be.
are
Because I mean, and then
they are.
This year, it's just been, I mean, we're going to do, so we do a Disney ranking every year, me and my friend Stanford. And my favorite Disney film of 2023 is their DCOM, one of their DCOMs. That's my favorite. It's called Prom Pact. It was so good.
Oh,
it was such a good teen rom-com. It was so well written, so well cast, so well done. Of course, it wasn't actually made by Disney. They acquired it. But but that's just bonkers that in a year where we had all these, you know, Marvel movies, and we had an Indiana Jones movie, and we had an animated princess movie musical that my favorite would be the teen rom-com DCOM. Ooh. But anyway, it's bonkers. But
fun little fact.
Yes.
When I went to film school at USC, we would go to Universal Studios every Tuesday as a part of our class. And we would meet someone in the industry as a part of our class. And my class was maybe 15 people. They were very small classes. One of the times I met John Woo, which is one of my favorite directors, but we had to make our final film at Universal Studio, and we got to pick, like, whatever place we wanted to film. Now, I was the editor. Everybody wanted to be the director. So I helped write and edit the film, and we shot it at the best little whorehouse in Texas. before it burnt down. So, and that's like the whole time we're filming, you've got the tour things that are, so we would have to wait for the tour, to go back. And
Yeah.
that was just so cool as like, a
Yeah.
17-year-old kid, to do that.
is
But
cool.
like, I definitely recommend, the last time I was
I
there,
was
I
so
did take my
impressed.
daughter on, the backstage thing, not the paid one, but the one where you
Mhm.
can go see Jaws and,
Right.
all of that stuff. And it was a lot of fun. So, I mean, I think everybody has their thing. I go to Disneyland at least once a year. I'm going to be running in the 10K in January, which is the first time they're doing Run Disney there since before,
Yeah.
the pandemic. My husband's not really into Disney. He just does it for me. But I do think for me, like all of these different reasons that you have to be on your phone, like I get it, you need to upgrade
Mm.
things because now things are digital.
Mhm.
But the fact that
Yeah.
you go to Disneyland and everybody's right here because they
That's a
need to
good
know where
point.
they're going to be next, that that I can see how that can take a
Yeah.
little bit of the magic away. I still just try and keep my phone off unless I'm taking photos. So I
Mhm.
would just say to people, if you're going to go to Disneyland, like take time to sit and have a churro and watch
Yeah.
people. Take time to go to one of the shows. Don't
Yeah.
always like rush around to see how many rides you can get on, because some of
Right.
my favorite things to do at Disneyland is to pin trade and,
Mhm.
to go watch a show and to go see,
Yeah.
sometimes they have chefs like out there, making stuff. Try a new
Mhm.
restaurant, like,
Yeah.
make it your own experience
Yeah.
for
I mean,
sure.
I absolutely love Disneyland. It just felt like the last two times that I've been, the guest experience has been noticeably
Yeah.
less great
Yeah.
than other times. And
Yeah.
and so, it's something that it's just the company's just
It's
not in a good
changed.
spot right
It's
now.
changed a lot.
And they just need to work on something.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Merch Store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies Merch Store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Well, and
But
that's,
I always
Walt
love,
said it's never going to be finished.
yeah.
And that's what I love about it. But I think that,
But sometimes it
since,
feels like, do they get it? Do they I mean, Bob Iger just announcing Frozen 3 and Frozen 4. I'm just like, what? Like, are you? I mean,
we don't need to
like,
do that.
what? That just to me shows
There's
like
no more story.
that just to me is like, you're not listening. You don't care.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
just totally clueless. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. It's frustrating, but
Yeah.
But I want to ask you about your podcast, particularly the Movies That Make Us.
Yeah.
Like, how did that
Yeah.
come about? And maybe tell the audience kind of what you guys do.
Yeah, like I kind of fell into that. Movies That Make Us, we are into our fourth season. We started in 2018. And Tracy Mangum and Jake Dietz are my co-hosts on there. And Jake, I did not know before this podcast. Him and Tracy kind of got together and they're like, we should do a movie podcast. And I had known Tracy from the geek world because I met him through an event called FantasyCon, which I was the event producer for. At one of my favorite, it's probably the favorite convention I've ever worked on because we made it so just immersive. And so he came to me during one of the hardest times of my life when I was going through my divorce, like right at the beginning. And he's like, hey, we're doing this movie podcast. Do you want to do it with us? And I was like, yes, I do. Like I need something. And we did it. And we basically talk about all of our favorite movies and we pick them. And sometimes when we rotate, and I pick a movie or Tracy picks a movie. Tracy and I usually butt heads a little bit. We don't always agree, which is really fun. We don't always like it. And sometimes we pick a movie that we think we all like, and then we get in and talk about it and we realize actually we don't really love this movie. But we're kind of freeform. We don't write outlines for our podcast. We get on and we're just three people talking to each other about film, and we all have different backgrounds. Tracy actually taught film classes. He was a film instructor. He also worked, at a Blockbuster really long time when those were still a thing. Jake is I hate the word just, he is like the ultimate movie lover, but he is more on the family side. He usually doesn't see rated R films. And then, I went to film school. I'm a film critic. I'm a female. And I really love all types of films, but my favorite genres, of motion pictures, are action films. And I really love war films. Something that's based on real life, but like it's historical fiction.
Yeah.
But I would have to say I love documentaries the most.
Yeah. What's some,
And
do you have off the top of your head, like a documentary this year? You
well,
said you've seen some
so
good ones.
last
I don't
night
think I've seen hardly any.
last night I watched American Symphony, and I
Oh.
really enjoyed that. And I know that's on a lot of lists this year, but I have to say, it's been kind of a popular thing to say in pop culture and social media over the past 5 years, like you never know what somebody is going through. Especially as we see on social media all the time, we usually only show the good sides of ourselves. Like this is the
Mhm.
happy things that are going on,
Right.
but behind the scenes, there's a lot of rough stuff. And you've got two amazing musicians and one who is just having an incredible year, John Baptiste. And they're following him through this, but at the same time, his wife is going through the most horrific cancer battle of her life. And he is winning like the most Grammys of that year. He is the music director for a late night talk show. He is at Carnegie Hall, so like all of these huge things for somebody's career. And then when he's not doing that, he's at the hospital with his wife,
Yeah. That sounds
and
good.
struggling. And not a lot of
Yeah.
people knew that. And he's just
Mhm.
brilliant. And he is this shining light, like every time, he's out in public, and that's important to him. So I would say if I know that it came out streaming this week. But I'm going to
Huh.
be writing a review on it. And so I would say get on that right away.
Yeah. The only
And
documentaries I've seen this year have been at festivals.
mm,
Oddly
yeah,
enough, I saw The Longest Goodbye at Sundance. I saw
yeah,
It's Only Life After All at Sundance, which was about the Bengals. I saw Pretty
yeah.
Baby at Sundance. But other than that, yeah, all festivals. I
Um,
saw Black
um,
Barbie at South by Southwest.
yeah,
But I haven't seen hardly any
yeah.
outside
I'm
of
looking
that.
at
So I'll
my
have to check it
list
out.
because
I saw
I
the
have,
Mary Tyler Moore. I guess that's the last
mm,
documentary I
yeah,
saw. And that was
yeah.
just
Of
like
course, the
fine,
Michael J.
normal.
Fox one I really enjoyed. I
Oh
saw
yeah,
that
I
at
haven't seen
Sundance.
that.
I like that because everybody thinks it's going to be this thing, but then you get into it and it's different, and you really
Hmm.
learn a lot about him as a
Yeah.
person. And Little Richard, I just watched 2 days ago. Little Richard, I Am
Hmm.
Everything.
Hmm.
I enjoyed that. I
I couldn't
still have
believe
a
that
lot of
in the Bengals documentary, or not Bengals, the Indigo Girls. I couldn't believe that the Indigo Girls documentary. I could not believe that they have never been on SNL. There was a
oh
whole
yeah,
skit. There was a whole
yeah,
skit about
yeah,
them, like a recurring skit, and I just can't believe that over all these years they have never
yeah,
performed on Saturday Night Live. That just seemed amazing to
yeah.
me.
That's crazy. The Deepest Breath is streaming. That's really good. Um, I just watched this one, Stamped from the Beginning. Um,
Oh
I
yeah.
really I like that. There's just so many. I was trying to find my top 5 that because I started making my list because I have very bad memory. So I have to put everything in notes on my phone so that I remember it. But it's been so good. I would say the Taste of Things, which is a foreign film.
Yes.
I would definitely take a look at that.
That's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah. But there are some I'm gonna do uh on my website, whattoseewithval.com, hopefully in 2 weeks, because I think I'll be done watching all of the docs right before we kind of send in our votes. I'll be putting my tops of everything, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on documentaries. It is my favorite genre. For me, the whole reason I got into film is because, or went to film school, is because I've learned more about history by watching films, because I think a good film that is based on anything true is going to send something through you that you're going to go and research that topic after you see the film. So if it's historical fiction, if it's a biopic, there should be a click where you're like, I didn't know this and I want to go learn more about it. And then when you get a documentary, the best docs is it can't tell you the full story. And so you want to go learn. And this is what I have been trying to tell everybody this year, because I've seen it so much this year, is that people are going to biopics and people are watching documentaries, and they think by watching those biopic movies that they know everything now.
Right.
Biopic movies is not a documentary. And so you do need to go beyond that. That is not the truth. It's a little bit of the truth, but also documentaries, depending on who makes that documentary, that's
You have to
also
take it
not
with
the
a
full
grain of
truth.
salt.
Yeah, because if the documentary is made by a third party, it's probably the most true. If the documentary is made by the person that the documentary is about, you're getting one side of that story.
For
And
sure.
there's usually 5 sides to a story, So, but it should click something in you if it's made so well that you are now intrigued to go learn something else. And
That's true.
I love it.
That's true.
I love it.
Well, my favorite, at least I still have a few to watch, but I've watched most of the contenders. My favorite, The Holdovers, as far as theatrically released. The Holdovers, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, The Taste of Things, Killers of the Flower Moon, TMNT, Mutant Mayhem, Suzume.
I'm watching that one tonight.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. Then Spider-Verse and Theater Camp. I really enjoyed that. And that was like right in my wheelhouse. Did you have a movie this year that you liked more than other people that got kind of
I think that's You Hurt My Feelings, because I think it was a sleeper.
That one was really funny.
And I think that like people walked out of that movie like, I mean, it was fine. But for me, I just thought the 2 main characters, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and then I always forget the other guy's name from Outlander. I just think it was portrayed, if you've been in a relationship before, where you think that you can't share, those moments where it may not be a popular opinion to your partner, then you walk out of that movie realizing that you need to, and that your relationship is stronger by doing that. And I am an overprotective mother. Like I would have jumped right on top of my son, and I bring my daughter food all the time. When she comes over to my house, I'm usually like, I bought this for you.
Funny.
I thought it was so smart, and I thought it was so relatable, and I thought it was just so well made. And that was the same with The Holdovers. Like it wasn't these big explosions. It wasn't this big mystery. It was a well-made, well-told, well-edited, the right length movie. And sometimes you just need that. Like The Tender Bar was that same thing for me. The Tender Bar, I mean, there was one scene that the movie, I could have cut it out and it would have still been a really good movie. But like, I don't think with The Holdovers that I would have cut anything out of it.
Yeah.
The pacing was great. The actors were great, It was, again, it was just a well-made movie, and I really enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah.
And
Well,
The Color Purple is on my list.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
surprised by that movie.
Yeah, well, I'm excited because they're doing another screening of Color Purple, and
Yes, they are.
I was really tired that day, and I was struggling.
You fell asleep next to me.
Yeah, I was really.
I looked over and I'm like, she's sleeping through a musical. Like this is her whole
It didn't have
thing.
anything to do with the quality of the film. I was just tired.
I get it. I get it.
And so when they said that there was going to be another screening, I was like, they'll get a way better review if you allow me to go to this again, and I can go and be alert. And I was it just happens sometimes. I was really tired.
So on the newest
I'm
episode,
excited to see it again.
on the newest episode of Movies That Make Us, we kind of talk about the Wonka verse, right? Because the new Wonka movie is coming out, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to be seeing it on the second screening coming up. And so we were kind of in a debate on what is a remake, what is reimagined, and what is retold, right?
Right.
And so for me, the best version of a reimagined movie is The Color Purple. I've seen the original, The Color Purple. I have read the book. I think the book and the original movie are both very important. Again, you can't take a book and do it 100% to a movie. They're different mediums, right?
Right.
So I don't ever really get mad when I don't get that. The only time I was mad was Ready Player One, but for a lot of different reasons. But for me, being able to tell this same story that is so important and so dramatic and so it just pulls at your heart, at least it should. The fact that they made it into a musical, which is a totally different audience for people that may not go see this movie, and the fact that it works, for me is a huge win.
Yeah. Even though I was admittedly sleepy, I could still say that so when I went into it, I'd seen on the trailers they had said it's a crowd pleaser, and I'm like, crowd pleaser? What? I mean, because it's got some deep, dark, disturbing stuff in there. And so I'm thinking, how the heck is that going to be a crowd pleaser? But it kind of was. Like, they did a good job of flipping it to something inspirational.
Yeah, reimagined.
And reimagined, absolutely. Yeah, I'd agree. And I'm, like I said, I'm excited to see it again. And I do, if I have to write a review for a movie that I got, like, I almost always play the head banging game a little bit. I get a little tired frequently, but I rarely actually fall asleep like that. Very rarely.
I looked over and I'm like,
it was bad. But
one time you sit next to me in a movie and it's a musical and you fall asleep on me.
No, I was so tired. It was Monday. And I do, if that happens and I don't have the chance to rewatch it, then I will own to it in the review. I'll say, look, this is what happened. And it's because I feel like that's the right thing to do, to say. But I rarely do I actually like fall asleep. Though the one that I remember the most was it was, I think it was called Beautiful Life or something like that, with Oscar Isaac and and so it was when I was trying to get on the press list. So I was at that point, I was going to as many, and I was waiting in the lines and getting the raffles and all of that. And so I was hustling. And so I got invited to go to that one. So I was like, well, I gotta go. And you would never do this now after COVID and everything. But at the time I was sick. Like, I was sick as a dog, but I was like, I can't miss the screening. They actually invited me, So I go, and I was out almost the whole movie. I was just like completely asleep the whole movie. And I was like, I can't review. And I said,
at least you're real about it, because there are some film critics out there that, because a movie is so big or because they need to meet a deadline, they'll still write about a movie that they either didn't watch all the way through or they never watched at all. Like, I totally owned it this year when they didn't do a Barbie screening for us, but I'm like, I'm going on TV. Everybody's talking about this movie.
Right.
And so I went on and I was like, fair warning, I have not seen this movie yet. Here's the things that I know about this movie.
Right.
And like, I usually, if I haven't seen a movie and I talk about it, I'm like, this is my prediction of my grade.
Right.
And then when I might write my review after I've seen it, I'm like, this was my prediction. This is what it is actually. But yeah, I'm like that with my audience. I'm either like, this is a movie I'm not ever gonna see, but it's high on the list. It's a big opener for the weekend,
Right.
or I haven't seen this movie yet. Either they didn't screen it for us, and this is why. Because most of the time, when we don't get a screening, it means they
It's
don't
usually a
expect
bad
much of it.
movie,
But
yeah.
with Barbie, that's a flop. It's a flip-flop because they
Right.
did know it was going to be well, but they decided to only show influencers the pre-screening instead of film critics because
Mhm.
they had a marketing plan. They very much wanted to hold
Yeah.
tight to reactions, which I respect.
Yeah.
But I had to go on TV and say, I know
Yeah.
everybody's talking about Barbie. I know you all have your pink outfits. I know you have your tickets. Let me know what you think because I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I think that they weren't like 100% confident in it because it is kind of a weird movie. It's an experimental, strange movie, but and so I think they hedged their bets. There's like
Yeah.
and so that's but it, worked out for them. So
Yeah.
I mean I enjoyed it, but before we go, we have some holiday fun get to know you questions. Real quick.
Okay.
Rapid fire. So first one, what's your favorite holiday drink?
Oh, I had the hot chocolate with like you put the candy canes in it.
Oh yeah.
Like I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
So I always during the holidays make pasales, which are a Scandinavian like Italian cookie that we have made as a tradition in my family since I was born. So I'll probably
Yum.
bring some for you all to taste at our voting if I have some left.
Good.
So
That sounds good. What's your favorite Christmas song or carol?
oh, I gotta go with anything Bing Crosby. I'm an old-fashioned like Christmas song
Right.
carol person. I don't know that I have one that is absolutely my favorite, but if we're gonna go Bing Crosby or Nat King Cole. If they're singing it, I'm listening to it.
All right. What's your favorite classic Christmas movie?
Oh, it's got to be White Christmas, man. I will
Okay,
watch that
good.
at least 5 or 6 times during the holiday.
All right. Which do you like better, Scrooge or the Grinch?
Oh man, I think it depends which one. I would have to go with Scrooge.
Okay. Which do you like better, clear lights or colored?
Ooh. I like colored on my tree and clear outside.
Okay, good. What would you rather be, a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Build a snowman.
Okay. Are you a good gift wrapper or not?
Oh no. No. You know you're getting it from me. Like you're like, okay, Val, wrap this.
Okay.
Or it's in a bag with some tissue out the top.
Do you have an ugly Christmas sweater?
I did until I almost put it on today. I just got rid of 3 ugly Christmas sweaters that I've had for like the last 10 years. And I haven't worn them. So I was like, I need to get rid of them, get some new ones. And one of them was my Darth Vader, like black Christmas sweater. And I'm like, it hurt me to get rid of it, but it was time. It was time.
Very good. All right. You did it. You answered all the questions. Thank you so much for coming on. This was so much fun. It's fun to get to know you. I mean, because I've known you, but it's fun to actually there's just certain questions you don't ask, and so
yeah.
So it was great. And if people want to follow you, read your reviews, follow your social media, all that stuff, how do they do that?
Yeah. whattoseewithval.com. I have been traveling a lot, so I do need to update that. But you can also follow me. I know I'm old school on Facebook. I am Valerie Cameron, or What to See with Val on Facebook. Either of those places are good places to be.
Great. So let us know what you think of all the things we talked about in the comment section or on Twitter. Love to hear your thoughts. You can find my playlist with all of my Female Film Critics Panel episodes in the description. I would really appreciate you checking that out. And also, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Would appreciate that so much. Also, make sure you're following everything going on over at Hallmarkies Podcast. We've got lots of coverage over there, lots of fun content, and check out the Patreon group and merch store. We got lots of fun new festive designs. And thanks so much, Val. This was a blast. And Merry Christmas, everybody. Bye.